Hey everybody, this is Dave again. I know it's been a while since I had a YouTube video and never really finished that last project up, so I thought I'd go back and all the questions I got on it and basically tell you what I did about that valve noise. The valve noise, basically the noise I had was going down the road, say about, 45, I heard just a steady clack, steady back tack, kind of clack, 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 and just louder than it should have been. All these bikes make a little noise, but it's too much noise. So in that last video I took the motor out and started talking about it, but I never got into the motor, told you the outcome. So let me just review that a little bit and show you what I did, and the noise is gone. First off, this is the bike here, been about 20,000 miles, been running great. Not much you can do on these motors when they're in the bike, you got to get them out. This bike I worked on was a 2003 1500 Kawasaki Vulcan Classic. This is a 2005 Kawasaki Vulcan Classic. Basically the same motor except for, as you can see on the top here, fuel injection. Okay, so let's run down a little bit what I did. First of all, I pulled the motor. After I got the motor out, then I dropped the motor. Not proud to say, but tipped over. I broke a fin off here. I broke a bolt off up inside here, the exhaust. So I bought another head off eBay. Sent both heads out for a valve job. But anyways, that's why I have an extra head now. Here's your, this is the rocker box up here, and these are your rocker arms. I don't have an extra cam, so there's no cam in here, but as you can see, cam rides here, pushes this side, which pushes down on your valves. Now there's supposed to be a hydraulic lifter in here. That's another issue that can cause valve noise. I bet that lifter's not, it's not much bigger than this valve stem cap, maybe a little bit longer, but it's not much longer than that. You gotta submerge it in oil, use a blunt object, a pin, something without a sharp edge, and push the little, there's like a little BB in there, and you gotta pump it and get the air out. That's very important. But anyways, in the process, I ended up buying some new parts, and what I determined was, I did some research, and there's a thing in here called a valve decompressor, or exhaust decompressor. These engines are so big, it's hard for the engine, the starter motor, to crank them over, so they basically, when the engine's off, the valve is partially open, the exhaust valve. So you really can't do a compression check on one of these motors because that valve is partially open until the engine starts. So this little decompressor sits in the cam right down here, and what it does is there's a little pin on this here. See this little pin right there? That little pin rides on the rocker arm. Let's see if we can get a good picture of it. It's kind of hard to see, but there's a little nick right here at the edge where that pin sits. So when the engine's in the non-running, sitting there not running, before you start it, this little decompressor, basically, this pin is stuck into a slot in the camshaft. So it's sticking up. When the cam should be at low cam, when the valve should be closed, this little pin is sticking up, holding that rocker arm up a little bit, which in turn, when you hold that up a little bit, it in turn pushes down on the rocker arm, keeping the exhaust valve open a little bit. When the engine starts, these counterweights move. Note the pin going down. The pin right here. So as soon as the engine starts, this is spinning on the camshaft, and it opens up, and now your exhaust valve is completely closed. Well, in my research, I found out that there was some warranty issues with a lot of customers with these. They had problems with these, so they changed the part number, and I went ahead and I bought new decompressors. Bought them. A lot of my parts I bought new old stock off eBay, but I made sure I got the new one. So I replaced both the decompressors. I replaced most of the rocker arms. Again, not that they were that bad, but I got some really good deals and some new old stock stuff off eBay. I changed them. I made sure I bled out the lifters here. They're hydraulic lifters. Like most motorcycles, you have to adjust the valves. These are non-serviceable, which means you should never have. There's no adjustment. That hydraulic lifters like on your car. Cars have hydraulic lifters. The oil pumps up through here, goes through this shaft, goes through these rocker arms, and supplies oil to them lifters. And in the back of there, there's a little pinhole right at the tip of my finger, and that lets the oil out, but it keeps it full of oil. Okay, so I replaced rocker arms, they replaced the decompressors. I also went ahead and replaced timing chains. Now there's a very common cause, a problem with these bikes. I had the part sitting right here if I can find it right quick. Anyways, that you have, this is where your spark plug goes here. You notice the hex shape? Well, this is a tube that goes through, oh here it is right here. A tube that houses the spark plug. Well, because there's an open chamber in there. And that open chamber is where the camshaft runs, the timing chain runs. Here, look at the head here at the top. The cam would be here, the gear would be right here, but that chain comes up and runs around. We'll turn it sideways here. So the chain is going around, up and around. This goes in right here. Let's flip the head over, you can see the area that I'm talking about. This piece goes through here, and the chain goes around it. Okay, so the problem, one of the issues many people have with these is they get what they call a chain slap. The chain coming around here, there's a tensioner to keep pressure on the chain to keep it snug, and the tensioner is up in here. I'll show you the one on the back side, it's a little easier to see. But this is your chain tensioner. It's got a spring in there and a plunger that pushes on a guide. And you can buy extenders for that, I found out. Extensions to make it do a little more than it did factory. But anyways, if you suspect chain slap, a good way to check it is you take your spark plug out. I used a bolt with a big, I forget how many, 30 millimeter or whatever it was. It was the head of a bolt and a pair of channel locks, and I screwed this, had the bolt in there backwards. Used the head of the bolt, screwed this out. Well, a lot of times there'll be wear on the side of it, like right in here. There'll be a wear spot where that chain has been going back, slapping on it and wearing it down. If you've got that issue, you can buy some tensioner extensions, which will put more pressure on the chain and keep it snugger so it doesn't bounce around in there, you know, because that chain's running all the way around. Okay, that's one thing to look. That's an easy check. Takes you 5 minutes. Take this piece out. Alright, so that's something to check for. So I changed the timing chains also, but the timing chains really weren't the issue. I'm not 100% sure of the issue, but I got rid of my noise. Another thing I never went over was timing. When you take these heads off, you need to retime the motor. And you do that by taking this plug out right here on the side. And this plug is located behind the chrome cover. I'll show you on the other bike right quick. You take this chrome cover off and it's behind there. That's all we do is just take that cover off, and then you can access what we're looking at right here. Inside this hole there are some marks. You need to crank the engine around to the first. Look in your book. If you have any questions, you can send me an email but anyways, there's one mark on that. You line it up, then you run the motor around past that mark you just lined up to the second mark right behind it. That's because both of these pistons are running on the same journals. They're both going around at the same time, and only one's firing every other time. But anyways, you have to time it right. Not a big deal. It was a little confusing for me. But that's the situation with that. You know, it was a little bit of work, but I've since put probably 20,000 miles on it. And, you know, no real issues. 20,000 miles, running great. And it's a little work. Now, what we're going to do now is I really didn't get into how to get the motor out all the way. Well, I got this 2005 1500, pretty much same motor. And we're going to be doing some work on this. And I'm going to put this back in that bike, in that 2005 1500. And the disassembly is roughly the reverse of the assembly. Now this bike I got was this gearbox on the side here. The gears went out on it, the bearing blew out on it, so I had to replace this gear drive. And I bought one off of eBay. This gear drive basically works like a ring and pinion on the back of a car. It's switching the shaft that's spinning this way to a shaft spinning that way. And there's some bearings in there. Well, I bought one off of eBay. I just put it together with some RTV silicone. I didn't want to spend the money on the gaskets and the seals till I knew for sure this was a good running motor, which it turned out it runs great. So now I'm going to take it back apart. We're going to replace the seal where the clutch goes for the master cylinder for the clutch, or the slave cylinder. We're going to replace the seal here where the shifter linkage comes through here, where the shifter bolts on. I'll show you, I got that arm off. Sitting right here. That's it here. That's where the shifter comes through. I had to put that back in there, but so I bought new gaskets. But this one gasket that goes here, right here, I mean it's like $20 or $25. So you know, I'm going to make sure it was a good motor before I did any more. But we're going to do some work on that. The guy that took this motor out really didn't know what he was doing and broke some stuff. One thing he broke here, this duct here. It's supposed to have a slotted, that little slot right there. Supposed to have a square nut that goes in there, and then that way it allows you to run these screws to pull the cover on. But anyways, they broke them off both sides. This guy didn't know what he was doing. He broke, so I bought another one of these pieces of ducts off of eBay. Now you can't, no way to put it in on the bike, so you have to remove this case the fuel injection. On the other bike it was just the carburetor, which is nothing more than 2 bolts on each side and some hoses, but you had to remove that to get that in there. But I've already replaced that. We're going to put this back together, and you know, I'll show you a little bit. Maybe I'll give you some help in working on yours. Another thing I did on my bike too was this box here allows the exhaust gases to be reintroduced to the engine to the air cleaner, and it reburns it, you know, for emissions. Well, you can. I bought metal plates for that other bike that took these off. I think I got an extra one over here. Yeah, right here. These metal plates. Here's another one of them boxes. So it blocks that. It's just a gasket. You put this cover on there, and then you don't have to worry no more about the emissions. And some of that emissions junk, if you don't live in California, this is what else you get to remove. You get to remove all that, which is nothing more. One feeds from the front, one feeds from the back. One hose goes down to the air box to reintroduce those fumes. This small hose just activates it, opens and closes it, I guess at a certain RPM, but we eliminated that. We're going to be putting this bike back together, but I just wanted to give you some explanation on what we did with that other one. Anyways, we'll get this project done, and we got a few other ones to work on. I'm going to start making some more videos. I have recently obtained a 1956 Harley-Davidson KH. This is a predecessor of the Sportster. Let's see if I can get a good picture of here. I got a bunch of junk stacked around it. It's a flathead. It shifts on the opposite side of a Japanese bike. It's got a flathead like a lawnmower engine. As you can see, no overhead valves. They lift just like a lawnmower. In 57 they called it a Sportster, but this is a 56. So we're going to do some restoration on this. It's kind of a unique bike. You have your throttle over here. It's a 2-piece handlebar. It stops here, and then the other handlebar comes up here. And this one also turns. That one turns to turn the magneto down here. It turns the whole magneto to adjust the timing. There is no automatic timing adjustment. It's very interesting, but that'd be another project. And then I still have to continue with my Kawasaki ZL900. It's up under this tarp right here right now, the frame. But I've already got the forks for it. The motor's all rebuilt, shiny new. When we start putting that ZL900 together, now that's a unique beast in that it was 0 to 63 in 3 seconds new, and I've since upgraded it to 1000, which I got the cylinders and the crank and all off a Kawasaki Concourse. Here's the forks I'm going to be putting on it. Bought these off of eBay. Man, they were hard to come by because I only made it for 2 years, but my forks were all pitted and rusted. These are already rebuilt, ready to go. Maybe we can do a video on that sometime, rebuilding forks. I think there's a lot of videos already out there, but it's not too bad. But anyways, that's where we stand on this bike. Here, let me see if I can get you a shot of the bike. The 2005 Vulcan 1500 Classic. This is sitting right here. As you can see, the lower section of the frame has been removed here. But it was exactly the same as that other bike as far as pulling the motor. I mean, 99.9% of it is exactly the same as pulling the engine on this bike here. And with these bikes, there's really nothing you can do with that top end. The frame is literally almost touching the top of the valve cover here, so there's nothing you can do with the work without removing the motor. But it's not that bad. I generally use a motorcycle jack. This yellow jack down here. I get that section of frame out, I slide that up underneath there, jack it up, pull the motor. But we'll get back to some more of these videos pretty soon. Just wanted to give a follow-up on that, and if you have any questions about your bike, I'm not an expert, I'm learning as I go, but I've been working on bikes for years. Send me a message, I'll see if I can help you out. If you got a classic, and you got some tips and some issues you've run into, you want to share it with other people, let me know about it. Now, maybe we can do a special on that. Some issue that you have with your Vulcan 1500 Classic or Nomad or Mean Streak, and maybe we can share it with people and we can save us all a lot of headache. It's just a trial and error, learning thing. But just mine, 60,000 miles, runs get great other than that ticking noise, but we got that taken care of. So, all right, until next time.